First, there were 2 whistleblowers. Now there are more.
More Metro Schools insiders raising questions about the district's testing policies. They've been telling their stories to News Channel 5 Chief Investigative Reporter Phil Williams.
You know, they really felt empowered to call our tip line or send us an email by these first 2 whistleblowers. Specifically, we've now heard from several insiders from Nashville's Hunters Lane High School, all telling essentially the same story that you're about to hear from a former teacher.
I loved my job. I left on a good note.
After years of teaching,
that's me. Haven't changed a bit.
Nancy Spinks struggles with her voice, but after what the school system did to her students, this veteran teacher says she had to speak up.
I was so disillusioned. You know, how can you do this to the students?
Spinks, who taught here at Hunters Lane High School, came forward.
Would you say that the district gave up on these students?
Yes, they did.
After former Hunters Lane guidance counselor Shauna West and another whistleblower went public with allegations about Metro students being pulled from classes they needed to graduate, all because of concerns about how their test scores might affect the scores for the schools.
For Metro to say this didn't happen, I lived it. It happened.
And Spinks isn't alone. Over the last few weeks, News Channel 5 Investigates has heard from other Hunters Lane educators, some who still work for Metro Schools, who say it's happened to students for years.
Kind of like a sports analogy. They were taken off the starting team and put on the bench because they weren't going to contribute to the team.
To the school?
Right. Mm-hmm.
To the school's test scores?
Right. So they weren't given a chance to see if they could make that home run.
Back in 2011, much of the focus was on English 2. In particular, Spinks said school officials were concerned about which students might not pass the critical end-of-course exams that are also used to come up with the school scores.
Right before spring break, we got an email, and it said, please highlight people that are in danger of failing your class.
Spinks got married during that spring break, and when she got back from her honeymoon, a lot had changed.
My classes were gone. All my sophomores gone.
Just disappeared?
Disappeared. And I had 2 classes of students. I had no idea who they were.
It turned out those 2 new classes were filled with students who had been pulled from English 2. She asked an assistant principal what was going on.
He goes, well, they lost their credit for English 2, but just give them work.
These were not necessarily students who were failing.
No, I would say a lot of the kids had high 70s.
Which is passing.
Passing. A couple had 85s, Bs.
And they were still pulled.
They were still pulled.
While Spinks says she tried to prepare them for when they would get another chance to take the class for credit, many just gave up.
They knew they had lost English 2 for the year, and they were very disgruntled.
Did this cheat the students?
It did. It really cheated them. I mean, why take away chances? You know, you took away all of their chances to complete and pass a course.
For what?
Test scores.
There are no low-performing children.
Hunters Lane principal Susan Kessler, whose claims of success have attracted the attention of Congress and gained her all sorts of accolades, has refused to sit down and answer our questions. But in an online interview, Kessler described her approach, saying, I don't want to break rules, but I'd like to see what rules are more brittle than others.
There's no doubt in your mind this was about manipulating test scores.
It had to be. That's the only reason.
But Nancy Spinks thinks her former boss was just playing by rules set by someone at the central office.
My sense is that it went way up. You know, I do believe that Dr. Kessler would not have done this on her own.
Now, again, we have a standing invitation for Dr. Kessler to go on camera and give us her side of the story. These questions are now the subject of an internal review by Metro Schools, a review by the State Department of Education, and tomorrow there will be a legislative hearing on Capitol Hill. Vicki.
And I know your investigation's not over.
That's right. Even tonight at 10, we're going to have an investigation involving another type of testing.
All right. Thanks, Phil.